Hey guys, Tides here. Just want to make a video kind of going through the 5 feet raid that we were able to do recently. It was a really hard challenge, and I really feel like it'd be helpful to kind of have us illustrate kind of the strats we use, how to really efficiently tackle this challenge, and kind of like what even the challenge is and stuff. And I have my scout, Jay here. He helped us a lot with this run. He actually was there and helped us do every encounter as well. So kind of want some of his insight. He played a lot of Titan in his run, so he can give a lot of good points and yeah, talk about his side of those things. All right, so pretty much for the 5 feet raid, what it is obviously it's the newest raid, Desert Perpetual. A new system they added is called the feat system, where you can add these additional self-imposed challenge, and each time you add one, you increase your loot tier. What the 5 feet is pretty much having all of them active. Unlocking these feats are tied to doing the raid multiple times. There's triumphs in the title you can do, but the main idea is the more you do the raid, the more feats you can unlock, and the more feats you have on, the better your loot will be. So pretty much for each feat, the first and probably one of the easiest ones is that fewer revive tokens. This pretty much means you can only die 3 times in each encounter. Not too bad if you ask me. Probably the easiest feat you can put on, and probably don't have to worry about too much. The next one is each encounter will have an activity or an extra challenge or a mech. And the idea is that, like every other raid in the past, this is just a challenge that is added to each encounter. It just adds an extra layer. We'll go through each encounter and what that challenge is and how to change our strat to accommodate it. But the idea is pretty much each encounter is one extra thing you have to do on top of doing the encounter normally. The third feat is additional powerful guidance. Pretty much what this means is they're going to add very specific banes to each encounter. It's not like banes in the past where it's random and it's kind of RNG which one you get. These are very deliberate, which bane they are, what enemy they are, and when they spawn. And yeah, we'll be going through that too. The fourth feat, complete each encounter with a certain number of phases. This means you have to 2-phase every single boss. Typically at this point is where I would recommend, like if you're a pretty decent and efficient raider, where I would be farming my loot. It's what our team loves to do. We are able to actually 1-phase most of these bosses just fine with these 4 feats. And it's probably the most efficient way to get really good loot. Right now in the raid, you cannot get tier 5s until the epic raid. So it's really important if you want a good gear set bonus from this raid, you need to farm it with a lot of feats so you get this low tier upgrade chance, aka getting tier 4s to drop. But the biggest thing is this 5th feat, and what makes this challenge probably the hardest challenge the game has ever seen in terms of being rewarded for. And that is all combats are tougher and more aggressive, aka plus 40 combat power, aka contest light level. I know there's a lot of rumors going around on what this feat really means, but as someone that obviously played it, it is contest. The amount of damage you receive, the amount of damage you do, it is contest. So pretty much this 5 feat run is a contest raid that you have to 2-phase every boss, that you have to kill extra like wyverns or extra banes, while also having to do an extra like mech challenge, while also only being able to die 3 times the whole run. By the whole run, I mean in that encounter. So really, really hard. Obviously, we have the power of hindsight compared to contest raid, where we understand the arenas, we understand where these ads are spawning. Also, we have guns that are disabled like Outbreak, and just again better meta knowledge of like how the sandbox works compared to the old contests, like that one weekend that Desert Perpetual came out with contests. But I'm willing to say, and someone that played it, that this is harder than doing the contest raid. So, and we were the first team to complete it, which is super cool. So I just want to help you guys out, kind of talk about how we tackle this challenge and yeah, kind of giving good tips. But this is how the 5 feats pretty much work. Okay, so the first encounter we're going to go through is the Wyvern encounter. In my honest opinion, it is either the hardest encounter or at least the hardest of the first 3 encounters before final. And the reason for that is that this Wyvern's health is really, really difficult to get a 2-phase on, which is obviously required for the 5 feat. So the feat in this encounter that is really hard, like I said, it's a 2-phase, and it's also the banes they add. There's going to be slow banes that spawn near the portal. I'll kind of play it and show it real quick, where every time you're trying to jump through the hoop to dunk your crones, it's going to slow you and make you pretty much fall off the map. So you need to really make sure you're killing them, or at least avoiding getting slowed by them pretty much, right? And again, the main challenge here is that the challenge is added, is that everyone that does the jumping in this encounter has to be a different person. And by that, I mean each layer, right, is a different pickup that has to happen. A different person has to pick up the first floor, the second floor, and the third floor, to activate. And that pretty much makes it so you need 3 people running, which only leaves 3 people ad clearing at the beginning, which is obviously very difficult. So you pretty much need to just make your team separate. Okay, these 3 people are the runners. These 3 people are shooting the totem, pretty much. I would really recommend, like, I mean, Hunter is really, really strong because they can invis, but obviously your other 2 teammates can't. So the way we had it set up is, like, someone like Sutek took the, or someone like Special, excuse me, would take the first interact and then jump off and then just go help us clear ads. Moonshame would take the second one, jump off, go clear ads. Pine would pick up the third one and then start damage. Our class comp here was 4 Titans and 2 Warlocks. That's just because we really, really, really needed the Song of Flame, because we are doing a very interesting strat using the Flechette Storm melee on Strand Titan. So the damage on it is really, really insane. I'm gonna have Jay talk a lot about that in a second, and talk about, like, because that's pretty much the strategy you use to be able to 2-phase this boss. So pretty much we use Acreus to buffer the damage, and obviously Song of Flame. Right here, Pine's going to be the first song, and we're pretty much popping Song to give the Titans a lot of their melee abilities back, right? Because when we pop Song, your teammate and allies' cooldowns are, like, super, super fast. So they're doing that to get a lot of melees out, and pretty much my job is to extend Banner of War. We'll kind of get to that in a second, but the idea with Banner of War is that you or an ally in the Banner of War getting kills extends the time of Banner of War. And we're going to go through the exotic on Titan. That's really important for this. But pretty much the idea here is that you need someone killing ads during damage. So my rotation was very simple. I would kill an ad, get my Trench Peril, shoot my 3 Acreus. Instead of reproccing Trench, I would go kill another ad. The Rocket Pulse was really good for this. I can 1-burst them, no problem. Unlimited range. And the arena has a lot of heartbeats to feed off of, so you're fine. And I pretty much just did this the entire time until my teammate calls second song. And I'll pop Song and then do pretty much the same thing. Song's really good here as well for just the DR and staying alive. As you can see, Ignition stunned this boss like crazy. Yeah, pretty simple. I think Warlock is a very easy job for this. I mean, it's just Song. It's just Song and Acreus rotation. You'll see here when I'm out of ammo, I'm even using like a 1-2 punch shotgun. I could have swapped to Lord, but we have no div, so I'm just using a 1-2 trench barrel shotgun. Just like min-maxing as much as possible. But as you see here, we're going to do like 60% of the boss's health, which is pretty unbelievable considering how tight this boss's damage usually is. I'm going to have Jay kind of talk about Titan because he was playing time for this, kind of how that build looks. It's a lot more build crafty and a lot more you have to worry about for sure. So I'm going to have him talk about it because he was there for it and really helped kind of pioneer the strat for us and be the first team to even kill and to conceive that this boss could be two-phase.
All right, hey guys, so I'm gonna go over the Titan part. The Titan part is a little bit more complicated than the Warlock part, I guess, in terms of like the actual damage that you're doing. The 4 Titans are the ones that are doing 99% of the damage to this boss, and the only way we figured out how to do it was this build. You might have heard of this Wishful Ignorance exotic when you pair it with the Flechette Storm aspect on Strand. Basically what it does is the Flechette Storm, every hit that you get on the Flechette Storm increases the damage. And so we use a pretty in-depth strat to really take advantage of this damage extension and like damage increase. And so this encounter was pretty simple. We only had 2 loadouts. The first one is just your neutral loadout, gaining armor charges, your resists. I used these I was doing a pillar so I could shoot the box and just get kills easily to build up my Banner of War. If you're on the 4 Titans in this, like when you're running, your goal is to get to ×4 Banner of War. And you can kind of see, we're watching Special Heroes POV, because he was one of our other Titans and I don't have my perspective. But essentially his whole job here is to get his Banner of War up. So we're about to start damage, so he's starting to get some kills. Since he was running the fruits and doing the Minotaurs, he wasn't able to keep it up as much. But then your goal is just to have ×4 Banner of War. The reason for this is every time your banner pulses and heals an ally, you will gain melee charge back. So with ×4, it will pulse faster and you'll gain more melee charge. This is completely essential for this Flechette Storm thing because the way to have this strat work is to have as many melees as you possibly can. So if we watch Special, as we go into damage, he swaps to a loadout. I can show you the loadout. He swaps to a loadout where we want to max out our melee stat for the damage. So I only have 150, but I run 3 melee fonts, so then I'll have 200. And then you can do weapon or super. I didn't really care. Really, your damage is just coming from the melee stat. Your aspects don't really matter too much. I ran one that gave me melee. And then Ascent is nice just to reload your Acreus. And then I had to run a major mod, but if you can run a minor mod, run 3 surges instead of 2. But essentially what you're doing is when damage starts, you're going to pop your Flechette Storm and start throwing it at the boss. If everything is done correctly, your Warlock will pop Song of Flame with Apotheosis Veil at the exact time you're throwing your Flechette Storm, and it'll give you a chunk of more melees while you're in the air. So instead of getting 4 of these little Flechette Storm throws, you'll get like 10. So look how long it lasts. Look how many he's throwing. And that's because the Song of Flame with Apotheosis Veil was popped at the time he needed it to be. So that is essential for this strat, and we'll call the timing of when to pop the Song of Flames for that reason. The reason it's so nice is because we can continue to throw Flechette Storms at this Wish Dragon Talon ×3, which is the max damage buff of Flechette Storm. And we can basically chunk a huge amount of damage on this boss with one like melee. That little thing you just saw him do is equivalent to like 2.5 to 3 Purus Couraged T-Crashes just by doing this. And you'll see him in the next phase. He gets an even better one. Some of his things hit immune. But the other 3 Titans, me, Moon, Sutek, and Special, we were all doing the same thing. And it's just the fastest burst damage we can find, and it's actually the most reliable in this encounter because one of our Warlocks can extend our Banner of War timer. So then you'll watch his melee charge, and look at it chunking. That's that Banner of War that's healing our team. And so survivability really isn't an issue. He can't really kill you because we have Banner of War, and he gets his melees back. This is all while the first Song of Flame is still active. So he has these 4 melee charges again, so he can do another Flechette Storm before the first Song of Flame runs out. So then when we pop the second one, he can keep throwing, just like that. And then by the time the second Song of Flame ends, we're waiting for our melee to come back. We're doing damage with Acreus to buffer. He gets it again, and he can throw it again. And we each all do that. You can see us all basically doing it at the same time. And that's the rotation that you have to do each phase, because this damage phase is really not that long, and this guy has a ton of health. So this was the only strat we could figure out. It is slightly hard to execute. It took a few attempts before like we could get it consistent. But with that strat, like it's really not too bad. You'll watch again here. Here's another example of the damage. He'll switch his loadout. I think the Song of Flame time is even better here. He gets it off, or it might have been on the second one. But look how many he gets to throw, and just really do a huge chunk of damage. You can see the other Titans kind of grappling. That's just to reproc Trench Barrel with the melee and to reload your Acreus with Threat of Ascent. But like, look how many he gets to throw here, and we're just chunking him. What we also found, Special had to use his super to clear some ads. But if you're a Titan that doesn't have their super, when you run out of Acreus and you run out of melee charges, pop your super. Wyverns take a lot more damage from supers. That's just the nature of the ad of a Wyvern. So you can do a good amount of damage with just the Strand super, assuming you have Banner of War active, which your Warlock should be extending for you. And then worst comes to worst, if you lose Banner of War, still pop your super, because then you have nothing really else to damage with. But this is kind of the strat that we came up with. I'll go over the loadouts. I'll show the loadouts one more time. This is you don't have to follow this exactly. Really, the only thing you need, Flechette Storm, Banner of War, this exotic, and then in damage, you want surges for your Acreus and melee stat at 150, running weapon melee fonts here so you can get to 200 so your melee does max damage, and then just upkeeping that Banner of War, and and then doing that rotation, and you should be able to chunk this boss. But it is definitely the tightest damage. Maybe not the tightest. I think final boss might be pretty hard, but this one is requires a niche strat to be able to pull off.
All right. So next encounter is going to be the Hobgoblin. I would say that Hob is probably the most annoying encounter in terms of like just flow and what I like to call neutral, aka like the pre-damage phase. Just a lot kind of going on, a lot of ads. Again, it's contests, and these Hobgoblins are constantly getting you weak, those boss ones. So there's a lot of like, you need to be really active. And obviously, Titans, I think, here are just really strong because they can area denial, so many ads, the AoE slamming. And as you see, there's going to be a lot of Wyverns that have a really annoying Banes you have to deal with. But pretty much the main idea of this encounter is the pre-phase. I think it's the hardest part. And that is just making sure all the ads are clear, making sure everyone's killing their men to get the crones. And probably the worst part of this encounter is this Hydra right here. This Hypernova Hydra, I don't know what they did to it, bro. It is so insane with 5 feet. It is actually so ridiculous. The best strat we found was everyone get behind the Bolt Charge barricade, get 6 of your outbreaks with anti-barrier, and just light him up with like Radiant and just make sure he dies. There is a way to LOS this Hypernova and make sure he doesn't kill you, but I am telling you, especially with our team, our fire team had a lot of different nationalities and across the world, that connections. It was so hard to dodge this Hypernova that we just felt the need to always have to kill him. And if 6 people aren't actively shooting him, it's really hard. So yeah, make sure Hydra, it's always called out. It's always team shot. And you don't always have to kill the Hydra, right? You can wait to kill the Hydra until everyone's ready. And as you're going to see in this run, that is something that we actively do. The next part after the Hydra is killing these 3 Wyverns. They're really, really annoying because they all have this slow AoE. So if they get close to you, which their AI is going to run you down, as you're seeing right here, they're going to run you down. You're going to get slowed and you're going to get frozen. So big thing here is that we committed Transcendence Titan. And the name of Transcendence Titan suspending these Wyverns. And we just sit here and like kind of team shot while they like kind of all went ham on them. Pretty much when that part's done, and this is going to happen each phase, this is where it gets a lot easier, and it kind of comes to like the mech part where you just need to communicate who's picking up what fruits, who's going to be dunking them, and making sure everyone's ready. Here I'm getting my buff. Make sure Calm wouldn't get buff, right? Because yeah, here Pine even dies because we went a little too fast. He didn't have enough healing, stuff like that. But pretty much, it's just doing the mech normally, making sure you're rotating the crones, and making sure everyone picks up one before someone is able to pick up a second one. And you can communicate it. And you can pick up a crone and not do anything with it if it means resetting the rotation, right? Because the only people that can dunk these portals once you get the constant absolute and the other buff, you can't dunk in these portals. So even if you pick up a crone to save the challenge, someone else is gonna have to pick up their second crone to start dunking. And as you see here, we're just avoiding this Hydra, even though we know he's gonna mess us up. But we're kind of waiting. We're making sure at this point our runner is gonna run through all the hoops before we even touch him, right? So you see, we're still sitting here. Our runner is running through, right? Which here is gonna be Jay, running through the hoops. And when Jay kind of says he has his buff, instead of like instantly starting the mech and going, we're gonna all just 6 team shoot. Here we're like, okay, Jay made the call. Okay, I'm about to be ready. So we all sit here and shooting. We're running Radiant Shrapnel here for some extra damage. As you can see, doesn't really do much, but doesn't hurt either. But yeah, we sit here, and then Jay and Pine here are going to do the mech, kind of wait to get blasted by the beam, and start our damage. Damage is not too bad. Here, I'm pretty sure Pine is on Hunter, and Pine's main job is to just keep Tractor on the boss and run the portals always, right? So someone needs to run portals during damage. It's really, really important too. And that was Pine's job. And also, you need a debuff. So why not have the guy who can't even be there for damage because he runs through the portals, apply Tractor, and just run away? So Pine's running Tractor. He had like a fusion and like Lucky Pants. You don't have to be that min-max with it. I think it really helps. But main idea is a Hunter Tractor. And then here we're going to have 4 Titans running 1 Arc Titan for Bolt Charge. So we get a lot of our super. And then 3 Prismatic Transcending Titans to get those Courage, T-Crashes, and obviously Consecration in the neutral. All my job here is literally popping a Lunafaction well, which I never thought I'd be using in 2025, to get everyone, 1, their max real on the outbreaks, but mainly to give everyone a range increase on the outbreak, because when this guy teleports up, it actually keeps the outbreaks like maximum damage like the same, which is crazy. I didn't think it had that much range boost. I was trying Sanguine, I was trying swapping, and I really found that Lunafaction was just the most consistent way to do it, like by far. So yeah, as we see, we're gonna shoot here. Keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting. I'm gonna well here as well. I don't know we clear on this one, but the idea is just like, yeah, we sit in this very particular spot as well. I probably should have pointed that out. And the main reason for that is it keeps the boss at a distance, right? It's gonna be right next to this concept buff, and it keeps the boss at a distance where yes, he kind of wants to slam, which our hunter is kind of baiting in, right? But it also makes stops him from running away, hiding behind the tunnel and stuff, which happens a lot more than I like. But ideally here, he typically stays in your face. He just kind of stomps, doesn't really know what to do, gets stun locked by supers and enough damage. So I would definitely say here was like the best spot we found and was the most consistent. I'm trying to think outside of that, the build, really not much for Warlock. It really was just Lunafaction. You see here, I even like had a lot more super because I really, really need to make sure I get well in time. And there's sometimes that well actually like had it what went down because I just couldn't get it fast enough. But 150 super, and obviously here I have 3 font in the helmet, so it's going to end up 200 super, and I had like 140 weapon. Again, I'm gonna have Jay kind of talk more about the Titan and what they brought, but it should be pretty simple. Definitely not as complicated as Wyvern in terms of how you execute this encounter, and especially like damage. It's really not that bad, especially with Lunafaction. Well,
All right, so I'll talk about the Titan's role. It's a lot simpler than the last encounter. Purely just from the damage aspect that you're using Outbreak instead, and you're just trying to spam supers. The most annoying thing, like Tide said, is this Hydra. This Hydra was the bane of our existence for like 3 hours. He would wipe us just at times we never thought we could wipe. See, these Wyverns are still very deadly. But one thing I want to go over before talking to about the Titan build is the timing of when to kill this Hydra. This Hydra likes to respawn because we have to clear ads before damage starts, but it's tied to at least the Minotaurs and maybe the Goblins' death. So we like to kill. We found that we would kill this Hydra. We'd leave him up in the middle, the second one that spawns, until we are ready. The person who has the buff runs through the circles and gets the special grenade. So we could bait the boss and then blow him up and get ready for damage. Right when we're able to do that, we would kill the Hydra. That is super important because if he's alive during damage and you have to commit a T crash to him, or then you'd lose out on damage, or you would die to him because he would blow up. Because he would start getting hit by some of the other T crashes, and then he would just do his hypernova. That Hydra dying was the reason we were able to clear this. We were stuck on that specific timing for a very long time. So right when you're about to bait the boss to shoot, that is when you kill the Hydra. You can then clear every other ad, and the game will not spawn you another Hydra during damage. And then we would also kind of leave like 1 Minotaur just to be safe. But in terms of the damage, Special was kind of doing, you don't really have to do this, but we like to buffer our damage. As you'll see what we do on Final Boss, we like to buffer our damage with an initial Parasite shot at the start of every phase. We're just doing that to get a chunk to help us reach the damage threshold. It's not needed, but it does just help. So I don't really think there's a downside to it. So as you can see with Special, damage is about to start. He swaps to his loadout with the Parasite. He's going to shoot the Parasite and instantly switch to his Outbreak. We had a death here, which is unfortunate. But we would then just shoot the boss with Outbreak, with max kinetic surge. You want 150 super stat, as much weapon stat as you can, and sit behind the Titan's bolt charge barricade. That's really important. The extra bolt charge damage is really important to where all 6 or all 5 players need to be consciously sitting behind that barricade. It boosts your damage more than you think, and it generates more super. So as you can see, he's just building his Crash. He's building his Transcendence, which is also really important. You want to spam pop Transcendence as much as you can so that you get an extra 5% damage. And you'll see his Outbreaks are now ticking for 105, 106, which is good. The thing Tides mentioned about Lunafaction, you can really see here. A lot of teams, and our initial idea was that we would swap to Cloud Strike and snipe this guy up on the platform and do more damage than we were with Outbreak, right? I'm like, okay, that sounds great. The issue with that is then you let the nanites decay off the boss, and when he comes back down, you have to build up that Outbreak damage again. So that cannot happen. You lose out on a huge chunk of damage. So by running Lunas, you can shoot him when he's upstairs. You still get a ton of super energy, so you can guarantee get another T crash before he comes back down, or really close. And you're keeping these nanites up, and you're still doing outbreak damage, which is still pretty good. So you'll see we just keep spamming outbreak, and he basically has another T crash. This strat, I think, edges out maybe 1 or 2 more T crashes than you would get when you're sniping him. Because if you look before he goes up top, Special gets a T crash off right at the end. So he gets 2 off while he's down here. By the time he comes back, he's about to have his again, which you don't get from sniping. Still shoot with outbreak. You keep the nanites up. As long as the hunter is kind of baiting the slam, keeping the tractor up, while he's running the circles, like maybe you run through 2 circles, then reapply tractor, make him stomp, run through the others. And then he's doing his celestial swap, his lucky pants swap if you really want. The damage is not too tight. You'll see on the phase that we got him a little bit under half, which, I mean, if we got him just to half, we'd be fine. And so you just have to repeat that. So the main thing is transcendent cycling, super cycling, spamming your outbreak, and that's basically it for this boss. It's a pretty boring damage strat, but it's the only thing that we found to be consistent.
All right, so next encounter we have is Hydra, and this is by far the easiest. Like, it actually was like kind of insane how easy it is, and that's why I think the boss's health is like not that insane compared to the others, which is funny considering day 1. But pretty much the feats added here is that there's these rage minotaurs that are going to be roaming around. They're so nonchalant that literally our titans, because we put 2 titans outside, literally just ignore them. Like, it's very easy. They also spawn another set of cyclopses in the back of the room, but again, they're really easy. They're not boss cyclopses like this. They're very low health. So that's pretty much all it adds in terms of like those like extra challenging enemies. Really, really easy to deal with. And then the challenge, which you probably already know, is that everyone needs to shoot an eye, like alternating. So if I shoot one eye here, then whoever's in the room with me has to shoot the other eye, right? So I shoot the eye, I make the call, my teammate shoots the other eye, which allows me to shoot the next one. So it goes me, them, me, them, me, them, and that's the same in the other room as well. It's really simple, really easy. I really like. It just makes it so the people outside have to do a lot more ad clear than they're used to doing. But obviously, you know, a Titan can do a lot for that. A Titan can really, really, really do a lot. I guess a Slide Warlock could too, but Titan I think is definitely the best for it. In terms of, and then you just do the encounter normally, really it's not that bad. In terms of damage, it's really nothing new. I mean, it's just Outbreak. I run Sanguine. I run 200 weapon this time because you're really, really, really easily able to get your super back. You can add more super if you're really struggling, because if you didn't know, having over 100 super on Weld makes it last longer. But I just ran 200 weapon, just shooting. Something I'll kind of shout out is, since we are on contest and under light, when the shield kind of comes up and it asks you to like, okay, hey, you need to go and break the shield. Whoever goes in La La Land as I go, like here would be Moonshame, you got to be really careful. We would have like Titans throw like a Transcendate to go suspend ads. Like Moonshame here, for instance, because it takes a little bit for these eyes to show up. He'd get in the aura to allow the team to do damage, and then he would just shoot ads with his LMG behind him. Obviously here I'm a Solar Warlock, I'm like egoing it because I know I have my Phoenix Dive, so if I get weak, I'm going to pop it. But sometimes like you see here, like the ads didn't even shoot me. But I'm not in the bad part. I think Moonshame was definitely... this other side is much, much harder to stay alive. When we do that, I run back, and just keep shooting Outbreak. Like, really nothing crazy. It's triple connect surge. And yeah, I mean, very simple encounter. I don't think it changes too much.
Okay, so for the Titans on Hydra, again, like Tide said, it's very, very similar to the last encounter. It's basically the exact same thing. You can do the Parasite buffer if you want. I don't think we even bothered. You just run, Bolt Charge, Barricade, 1 Bolt Charge, and 3 Prismatics. You cycle Transcendence. And then the kind of thing that we would do, let's see if I can get a clip of it, where when you have to go over to the other side to do the light, you would pop Transcendence. You can see, like, Special's on this side, I'm on the other side. I functionally do the exact same thing as him, where there'll be a bunch of ads right here, shooting you, and on the other side, it's much more deadly. They're lacing you. So you'd pop Transcendence and throw your nade, and it'll suspend all of them. And then you see me consecrating over here also. You have to nuke those ads. You can't ignore them. You will fall over no matter how much damage distance you have. Like, you just get nuked. For some reason, like, you'll think you're fine, and for a couple seconds you won't be getting shot, and then you just die in a blink. So we would just throw the Transcend nade. If they're suspended and getting jolted, he's even rocketing the ads. You won't die, and it's really, once we learn that, it's pretty consistent. Damage, exact same strat as the last boss. And we kind of got him down, I want to say 55% health in one phase. As long as you hit the 50%, you should be fine. And yeah, this boss is definitely the easiest, and it took us the least amount of time.
All right, so final boss is last. Actually, in terms of Bane / like the challenging combatants, not the worst in my opinion. What pretty much happens is after the first set of the Hydras you kill, on the second and third wave, you're gonna have 2 Wyverns on the left and right plate that you have to kill. They're not the slow Wyverns. They throw out like a slowing pulse. But as you can see, we invested a lot into killing them. I would Radiant. We would have our Tractor user, aka Pine again here as a hunter, Tractor them, and I would even Div just to get Seno. Even though we're not going to use Heavy too much, I really felt like Speaker Sight just wasn't really needed here because everyone's kind of have their own self-sufficient healing, and I kind of needed my own healing. But that's pretty much a neutral this encounter. It's really simple. The really harder thing is the damage. It is a lot. As you see here, we're not even at 50%, but luckily we have this final stand buffer health that really helps. Okay, the biggest thing that I would do is, it's going to be Outbreak again, but you do really have to min-max. I don't know how necessary this is, but I think this encounter is the most necessary out of all of them. We would have people run around, everyone but me would have and Pine, because he was on Tractor, would run a 20x Parasite here and shoot that super and then loadout swap to Outbreak. And I think a really important reason for that is just to get free damage. We're on Outbreak already. We're not really using our heavies during the boss. So being able to just like shoot Parasites to kind of push the health bar a little bit more, then into Outbreak really helps. I mean, Parasite's some of the best bursts in the game. And again, help get that total damage out because you need a lot of it. Biggest thing here, Nick did a really good job, is putting the barricade back here is really amazing because the laser usually loves to eat up these barricades, right? It comes through and loves to eat it up. But when we place it back here, the laser just barely misses it. So as you see, everyone's going to kind of come back. And obviously, like we said for other encounters, the Bullshit Barricades just farms your super more, extra damage, why not? As you see in the top right of your screen, I may have to, after I've talked all my shit about the Helion gang, I did feel like in this encounter with how tight the damage is, it really didn't hurt to have Helion just to kind of plink plonk, just add like 1% more damage. Because it was a bitch getting this health bar down. I cannot lie. So Helion didn't hurt. I'm the only well lock anyways. Why not add a little scorch damage in there too? And as you see here, I'm going to get my super and I'm kind of waiting, right? I'm waiting. I'm moving up and I see 2 people pop their T-Crash. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to well, right? I'm going to give those 2 people that got their T-Crash, even Moonshade pop the third, kind of giving the orbs to the T-Crash when they need it. They always do need orbs, don't get me wrong, but kind of making sure they're not accidentally picking up your orbs at like barely full super, you know? That was kind of something I was making sure, because the well, I mean, it's never going to run out. Look, I'm at 20 seconds left in the well, and I already have another super. Here, very important, you need 200 weapon on Warlock, on Sanguine, 100%. I think it's really important. And we just did this both phases. Again, Jay's going to talk more about Titan, but I want to talk about for Warlock Final Stand what I did, because it was a little bit different from what everyone else did. So yeah, we're going to keep chunking. Like I said, really tight damage. The second I saw the health bar flash, I see a little Heathen Rocket I had saved up. And I'm going to loadout swap to a triple Soul Surge, but pretty much because of Lord and Heathen. And I'm not just going to do a very basic Rocket Envious Arsenal rotation. Jason's going to talk about what they did for Final, but for me, this was very consistent, really easy to get some bursty damage. And I don't need my super like they do, right? As you see here, we ended up needing 5 supers to help push this final. But I'll say we had like 3 seconds left in this final stand and we killed him. So really wasn't too bad in terms of killing this final when we had that optimized and we were like, okay, kind of like Contest Day 1, you kind of do need to save some supers for final. So while they get their supers, I'm never going to super. I'm not going to do anything. Instead of just shooting Lord of Wolves, why not use 9 Heathen Rockets? I mean, here, look, I have 3 Heathen Rockets left. Like, I could have literally done more. rocketing if I wanted to, but the boss dies, I didn't use it. So yeah, not too bad. I do think this is the hardest damage check out of all in the 5 feet run, and it's a lot on like individual performance and optimization. So, but it's really just the final stand, and again, just making sure you have those damage numbers for final. I think is really important.
All right, so I'll talk about final from the Titan perspective, and then also from the Hunters, just because I know what Pine did, and I'd say the Hunter has a pretty difficult job in this encounter. Like Tides went over with the challenge, you have to rotate your buffs. It is helpful to have 3 people, or I think it's, 3 people on the constant buff, 3 on constant, 2 on cyclical to grab the fruit, and only 1 on absolute, shooting the mines. The reason you want 3 on constant is to shoot the crits on the boss and to help the other people, and also balance the special ammo economy across the 3 players that are shooting the boss. And then in terms of neutral, just generate as many special finishers as you can for these constant players who are shooting the boss with their sniper. Other than that, Special ran a rocket here while the other few of us had the parasite. 4 parasites it would help. The rocket he was using for a rotation later on. But we also were hitting the damage for the normal phase, not easily, but consistently, we'll say. And as the final stand, that really, really is the hard part of this. You can see Special is taking on a Wyvern himself. He suspends it, he swaps to Curus, and he kills it, while the rest of us were shooting the other Wyvern with Div and whatever else. You don't have to do this. Special just chose that he said that he wanted to, and he could get his super back in time and his Transcendence. It's very important that the 3 Prismatic Titans go into the boss with their Transcendence. You have to always be popping your Transcendence for that 5% extra damage. It is noticeable over the entire phase if you do not. When we get up to damage, you'll see pretty long phase, but he switches right as we're about to start, and he actually didn't have either here, but on most runs he would. I think he had to use it on a Wyvern, but the rest of us, from Sutek, me, and Moon, we would all shoot our Parasite. You can see it right here. We would T-crash him, and then we would swap to Outbreak with our and try to regain our Transcendence and our Super. This part is pretty tight. A big misconception going around is that the TechSec armor from the Fireteam Ops portal gives you 15% extra damage against constructs. There's a huge misconception that it works on this boss. It does not. If you run that armor set, it's basically a throw because you're not going to have good stats. And you're losing out on weapon stat and super stat. We tried it for a while, and we probably wasted an hour and a half trying to use that armor set. Do not use it. Just use your illegal armor that you got from before the DLC or your weapon super stat split. The damage is quite simple. Again, it's just Outbreak, Transcendence cycling. You have to pay attention to the beams. Obviously, to not die. One thing that I'll stress more than Tide stressed is the timing of the barricades. Your Arc Titan, it might take him a while to figure out the correct timing, but the barricades need to be placed at specific times so they don't get hit by the beams. If that barricade keeps getting destroyed, you will lose a huge chunk of damage and a huge chunk of your super. It is very important to get the barricades down at a time where you can all use them and they don't get killed by the laser. Other than that, the first phase is relatively simple. Just crashing, outbreaking, transcending. Yeah, there's really not too much else. Let's check the end of the phase. He shoots some rockets at the end. He'll get a crash off. We know damage is about to end, so he'll shoot, 2 rockets or 1 rocket. But this is good health. We've pushed a final stand when we hit the W. Even though this doesn't look like it's 50%, you have this extra pause. So around this area is where I would be shooting for on first phase. With the TechSec armor, we were only getting to like the O. And so keep optimizing. This boss takes multiple pulls just to get people comfortable in their role. and consistent before you're hitting the damage, unlike Hydra, where you can kind of send it on the first or second pull. The final stand had us stuck for about 3 hours. The most important thing, I wouldn't say you need to save your super, but you need to time your supers correctly. Here, Special knows he's going to get another one off, so he will pop his super. But if I get my super at around the K, and we still haven't dunked the third portal yet, the third portal is the second portal was just dunked, I believe. Then you need to save your super for final. The hunter should be calling, who's running the Chronons and the extension, should be calling out when they dunk which portal. You can see Pine's going to grab the third portal right now, and he's going to save his T-Crash here. Special will save it because you just need it in final stand. If, let's say, you get it at the K, you use it, and you're right about here, a third bar when you go into final stand, you're going to get it during final, and then you can use it, right? So it's fine. But just be conscious of how long you have left of the phase before you need to push to final, and how fast you'll get your super back. Because I know we made a mistake once where we thought we had less time in the phase to push to final, so we used our supers, and then we couldn't kill in final. The final stand rotation is pretty similar for everybody, including, the Warlock and the Hunter. It would just be a rocket rotation. Special's using Explosive Light here. I was using the Heathen, like Tide said. And then we just need to make sure we get those supers off. So we have the Golden Gun, 1 crash, 2 crash, 3, and then Special will use his 4th because he's rocketing. If you have every super and you're shooting the crit eye and you're doing the rocket rotation, the final stand is not that hard. Executing that whole thing is much harder. You can get a lot of RNG with the beam. We had a run where it just spawned on top of us, like it happened with a lot of teams in day one, and it just shreds you, and there's nothing you can do. So there is a slight amount of RNG, but as long as you have that strat consistent, if you have full supers, you have the rockets, you have Lord of Wolves, you have surges, the final is not impossible. And yeah, we were able to do it after, I want to say we were on that boss for how long? 4 hours Tides? How long do you think we were on this guy for?
We're here for like 3.5, I would say. This
Yeah.
was the longest encounter we spent on.
Yeah. So that's basically it for this. For the Hunter, last thing I'll cover is for the Hunter. The Hunter's going to be your tractor, and he's going to be running the fruits. The Hunter probably has one of the hardest jobs because they need to upkeep tractor, they need to run the fruits, and they need to do damage. What Pine was doing was he would tractor, he would Nighthawk, Celestial Nighthawk, and he'd swap to Lucky Pants, and he'd be Lucky Pantsing him with a primary fusion rifle. When the fruits would come up, he would keep the tractor, and then when final stand started, he would swap to Knucklehead Radar, so he would do more damage since the boss was at lower health. It's a lot of actions per minute for the Hunter, and it's not just click M1 like the Titan does and just spam supers. So the Hunter player does need to be pretty comfortable, but our split was 4 Titans, 1 Arc, 3 Prismatic, 1 Hunter, and then 1 Warlock, and we were able to do it.
Yeah, so what I want to kind of end on is kind of the reason to do all this. So it is the hardest challenge, and yeah, it is self-imposed, but there is a reward for it. It's not the greatest reward. It is this triumph right here. Feature presentation, complete all encounters in the Death Special with feats active, which is 5. And the funny thing is, this actually doesn't even progress the title. It will say in blue text, this triumph will not progress title progression. So it is literally just for triumph score, but it's still something in the game that you are rewarded for doing, which is really rare to see in Destiny. Like this hard of a challenge, having something rewarded, something that can actually be like tracked. I think it's really, really cool. So yeah, not a crazy reward. We didn't get a tier 4 armor drop every single encounter. It wasn't that good, like it's just a loot. So definitely like a one-time thing I would recommend people do, or at least something like you could use to like practice with your team and stuff like that. Try a player out, or even I mean the challenge is insane. That final felt like contest final boss, like very much so. Same with a lot of the other encounters. So definitely a great challenge, great fun, but yeah, the reward is not as crazy. Not saying we're gonna farming tier 5 feet runs anytime soon. I do appreciate everyone kind of watching, having us kind of walk through pretty much the hardest challenge in the game. And yeah, hope everyone has a good one.
If you guys have any questions, you can DM Tides and on Discord, and we'll see what we can help with. In terms of like specific loadouts or team, things that are going wrong or whatever. Just feel free to reach out to us, and we can see what we can do to help. But yeah, thanks for watching.